And good evening, everyone. Welcome to another off-script roguelike, wrong channel, wrong show. The OSR tabletop with myself, DM Bloodworth or GM Bloodworth for this purpose. Great to have you on here. So as people start checking in, I will be giving out shout outs to those that are already here. And as you do come in, I'll make sure to continue doing so. Please feel free to leave your questions and comments in there. And if you wish to join in the conversation, then I will be putting up the link for you to jump right into the backstage, and feel free to either jump in on the discussion or bring up some of your own OSR tabletop comments and focus on that. So good to see you all, and let's start doing, I will start from right just before launch of the live stream. So Fox Off, I guess, is RPG. Welcome, and good to see you, and thanks for being so on time. You were actually here about 8 minutes early, so great to see you here. And here we have Mercurius. My ear trumpet has been struck by lightning. Good to see you. Happy Sunday morning to you as well. Cooperative Waffles, greetings and felicitations. All right, that's an interesting greeting. So good to see you here as well. And I just wanted to start off by first thing is that I'm going to probably make this a fairly regular feature, and that is to do these live streams on the weekends. I recently checked out some of the information about my channel, and it gave me like the best times to do live streams and to drop off videos and such, because it said that's when most of my subscribers and viewers, those that are just passing through, tend to be online. And so I thought, all right, let me take advantage of that and make sure that I'm delivering content to you during the times when you're potentially most looking forward to it. So let's see. So Fox, let's go. If you don't mind, I'm going to abbreviate your name a little bit. Yes, you got it. I have been loving your CNC videos. Great stuff, bud. Well, and thank you for that. And I'm glad you're enjoying it. As you can see, I didn't even know. I just happened to be wearing my CNC shirt today, and so and I will be getting back to some more CNC content, which I'm going to actually talk about during this live stream as well. So that's great to have you here for that. Takato, as always, welcome. And like I said, I will be putting up the link for anyone who wants to join in. Remember to like. There are 8 watchers, yet only 5 likes. All right. Yes. Thank you very much for that as well. And I'm more interested in your comments, and so that's something that I've always really enjoyed reading, because not only do you give me the support that I'm looking for, but you also give me a guidance to where I should go with the channel or what I should focus on next and everything. So I'm always trying to be as responsive as I can to your requests, and that's always great too. Please do your live streams on the weekend. I can catch them then. Right, great, and I will be. So this will probably be like a very regular feature for me. and that is, Saturdays. This is 5 p.m. Eastern time for me. I'm sure that you're, it's probably Sunday for you, knowing your time zone difference. Hello, OJ Flynn, spreading the good word of the hobby. Yes, I always try to, and especially for the OSR and independent games as well. I spend less time, and probably very little time, to be honest with you, with the more mainstream, TTRPGs out there, such as 5e or Pathfinder. Second edition, or even Call of Cthulhu, which I'm a fan of. I like Call of Cthulhu, but I don't talk about those very often. I like a lot of, obviously, Troll Lord game stuff, and Shadowdark is my big thing, and I'll also spend some time with Modifius and Free League and all of those independent games as well. So I kind of cross the spectrum of OSR and tabletop and independent gaming out there. I still have a few that I haven't even touched upon. Like I'm fairly so I have RuneQuest that I've never really dug into, which I really should. I have a lot of Savage World stuff, such as Deadlands and and others. I have some DCC as well that I could spend quite a bit of time on. I have a whole bunch of things from Runehammer Games as well, whether it be Crown and Skull or Viking Death Squad. I haven't spent any time with Viking Death Squad since I actually got the book, so maybe I'll take a look at that in the upcoming weeks to come. And so let me throw out that invite, and then I'm going to start talking about my first topic. So let's get the invite going, and here we go. Now, I am going to have another live stream for sure on March 31st, which happens to be my birthday, and I'm going to be bringing on Fred Quenzer, who is a convention organizer for a small hometown convention called AutoCon, named after Otto von Bismarck. So AutoCon 4, that is here in Pleasant Valley, New York, and I will be bringing him on, like I said, March 31st to talk about the convention and see how things are coming along with it. And then the very following weekend thereafter, I'll be going to the Central New York. I wonder why it's called Central New York. I want to ask Roger next time why it's called the Central New York, because Utica is not quite in the center of New York, but it's kind of a strange geographic nomenclature for the convention. But I'm certainly going to bring him on again just before the convention is, and we'll go into that. So here we go. And O'Flynn, yes, and yes, it is. I knew you were like far ahead in hours from us. I like Unisystem. Is that OSR? It's certainly old. Unisystem. What systems does it build around? Because I'm not familiar with that. I'd have to see. Is it like GURPS? GURPS is definitely old school. Even modern GURPS is still old school. It's built on that. Anytime on the weekends is good for you. Well, that's good. That's good. So I put out that invite, so anyone that wants to jump in, and hopefully I will hear the cue when someone is in the backstage. And let me start off with talking about the first topic, and let's get my share, and let's get to Shadowdark. So I'm going to share this view here, and I should bring this up on my iPad so that I can see what you're seeing and make sure that is good. So let's go to my live and let's go into here. Come on. Sometimes it doesn't open up here for some reason. Oh, there it goes. Very, very odd. All right, sorry about that. So you are looking at it, and let me just do a refresh so we can see 16,664. All right, so it's still there. So $1,664,757. 8,625 backers. This still has 18 more days to go. I have very little doubt that this is not going to break 2 million. I'm certain it's going to break 2 million. Might even push towards 3 million. We'll see. Usually they pick up quite a bit near the tail end, the last couple of days of these. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I've already started covering some of the content that are all in previews for this as well. So so now I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to get right back to here now. And let me talk about it. And then I'll get back to your comments. So it is my contention that that Shadowdark is going to be potentially certainly some of the products of the year this current year. So for 2025, I'm certain that it will win some more Ennies, which they tend to do in January. So it'll be part of the January 2026. So that I'm fairly certain that it will win some more awards along that way. I also anticipate that it is going to be even more in view at convention spaces. So I think that it will probably overtake some of the other competitors that have been around for quite a while. I know for certain just from the conventions that I have gone to, and when I look at their events schedules, the number of games being run for Shadowdark, it absolutely exceeds Pathfinder. It actually is ahead of Castles and Crusades in some cases, and I have a strong feeling that by 2026, the latter part of 2026, certainly by 2027, this is my prediction that there will be more Shadowdark being run at conventions than 5e. I think that it will surpass 5e, and I mean 2014 5e. 2024 5e is not going to show up anywhere on in the convention space, not in any large numbers whatsoever. My contention there, and I stand by that. I don't think that there'll even be a competition for 2024 D&D to be seen or compared to even Castles and Crusades in convention space. I think that even Castles and Crusades will beat it in the convention space. So anyway, so Shadowdark certainly on a tear with this new Kickstarter, and it's already exceeded its previous Kickstarter by over $300,000, and I have no doubt that it'll probably double those numbers and be might even hit the 3 million mark by its end. That's certainly a possibility. Now, another thing that I think is really big news for the OSR related to Shadowdark is that Kelsey Dion did an Ask Me Anything a couple days ago, and I believe it was on Monday or so, and she came out and she was saying that any small game shop, so any of the your friendly neighborhood game stores can reach out to Arcane Library and there's a special way to do it with the with the email, and I believe it was just wholesale/arcanelibrary.com, and request to purchase copies of Shadowdark so that they can have them on the shelf in their in their friendly neighborhood game store. So despite what one individual says, they can go in there and and get these things at a local game store. All they have to do is reach out. So maybe there has to be some more word spread, and that's where I think we as a community can do that. I think that we as a community can go out there if we have local game shops and say, hey, you know what? You can reach out and get copies of Shadowdark, and I'm fairly certain that they will sell from your shelves, and you'll start seeing people playing it in your shops if they provide that kind of a thing. So that I would certainly be on the lookout for as well, and just spread that word. Let's see. Let's get back to some of your comments now. All flesh must be eaten. Conspiracy Act. So these are some of those. Also, Army of Darkness and Buffy and Angel. Let's see. So you backed it. So did I. I mean, I backed it at one of its higher levels because I just want everything. Yes, it was the day of rip to the wallet. Especially since I did both on the same day as well. Like you said, although I altered my my Castle Zagyg for now, and I dropped it down to just the PDF, and I'm going to bring that up because I'm going to, when I do run that, I'm going to run that with my online group, and so I don't need the physical copies, and I'm starting to run out of room on my shelf, and I already have something like 13 books that I'm expecting from Troll Lord Games over the next, couple weeks to, couple months. And I certainly didn't need to add 3 box sets that these things come in. I literally do not have the shelf space for it. And I rely on the PDFs anyway, so that I can, put the maps there on, on my VTT, and I'm going to talk about VTT soon, very soon as well. So that's where I utilize them. So that's the other thing. So I have switched to the PDFs only for now, and then we'll see. Maybe someday I'll get a third bookshelf and see. Try to figure out where the hell I'd put it. Number one, because I do not have the space for it, but we'll see. We'll see what I'm going to do with that. Let me share that screen now with you too to show you where that backer kit is now standing. So let's go to. So here is the backer kit, and so this stands at. Let me refresh it just in case. So 440,469, a little over 2,000 backers, still 13 days to go on that. And this is a really, really nice set. Like I said, I'm not going to go with the physical right now. I backed the $80 for all of the items in the PDF only. So that will be Castle Zagyg Volume 1. That will be the Citadel book, the Citadel maps, the Ruins book, the Ruin maps, the Cellar book, and the Cellar map. So everything that I need, along with all of the stretch goals that go along with it. So it's going to be quite a bit, and I'm really looking forward to that. And the art is phenomenal. I mean, I'm really impressed with this art that is here. And I'm sure that there's a number of artists that are also going to be involved. But if you're looking for the whole kit and caboodle, here you go with everything that comes with each box set includes a 250-page hardcover book, 11 by 17 maps. So those are nice sized maps, and just a tremendous amount of materials that come along with this as well. And so really excited about that, and I'm looking forward to bringing a group of players from start to finish, from first level through whatever it takes to get them through all of the 13 or 17 levels of Castle. I almost called it Castle Greyhawk. That's originally what it's called, actually, but Castle Zagyg, and bring them all the way through from start to finish as a completely contained campaign where that's all we're going to run with that group of players, and we'll see how long it takes to get through everything. I know quite a few people on Twitter are doing Shadowdark supplements. Yeah, there's a ton of people doing third-party Shadowdark stuff. Much of what I had been running at conventions was coming from creators like Tom Wilson, who is also the organizer for ShireCon, which is another local convention that I absolutely love to go to. And his stuff is really, really good. Oftentimes set in the Hyborian Age, so it's connecting up Robert E. Howard's, theme and just setting and whatnot. So it's really taking two things that I really do love and combining them up, and so I'm a sucker for that. And I'm waiting because he has a Kickstarter going right now as well. Should bring that up. And as a matter of fact, I will. So while I'm chatting with you here, I am going to bring up that and see. Is this Tom's? I have a bunch of stuff that's Shadowdark, to be honest with you. No, this is not Tom's, though. Let me go, and here we go. Actually, I have a whole bunch, so I'm going to bring up a couple of these things. Let me show you another Shadowdark. So let's go to Tower of the Outer God. All right. So here we have, and this is from Tom Wilson, and it's funded in 19 minutes. Let's get to the actual campaign so that you can see. And so this is already finished. It's already closed out. So we made $5,946, $500 was the thing. So I got everything in the print on demand, plus all the PDFs, obviously. And so just waiting for that. Real cheap. I mean, $17. You can't go wrong for $17. Lulu printing, stretch goals, and whatnot. This is really, really cool stuff. So he's basically taking the Tower of the Elephant and converting it to both a TTRPG format for an adventure and Shadowdark all combined up. So again, can't go wrong. At least not for me, can't go wrong. So let's see. And of course, let's see, Trollord Games is determined to succeed at draining my gaming budget. Yeah, I know it's back a couple of years ago, I used to say the same thing about Bloat Games. Bloat Games was just absolutely, just putting out stuff so fast that I couldn't keep up with it. As always, Mercurius, thank you very much for the membership. And let's see, Lost in the East, you can thank Mercurius there, or My Ear Trumpet Has Been Struck by Lightning, for that membership. Thank you very much. I'll be giving away more memberships, my last 5 for the month, on the March 31st live stream. So be sure to check those things out. If you hadn't subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so and hit that alert button, and make sure that when you hit the alert button, because this is another weird thing that I saw, was that like only 40% of the people that hit the alert button hit all, which I don't think it's a problem with you. I think sometimes YouTube kind of messes up on that. I've seen that. I've never lost subscribing to someone's channel, but I've lost that the alert feature, which I always hit, has been changed, and I had to go back in there and redo it again. So yeah, just be mindful of those things. That's another weird little thing that they'll inform me about when I look at not just the analytics, but I look at some of the other tools that what is it called, TubeBuddy tells me about the channel and your participation and such. So yes, congratulations to him. Hey, Agile Monk, how's it going? And didn't get the notice. You see, so that's a weird thing, because yeah, that's so weird, because I posted this, geez, didn't I post this like yesterday? I posted this yesterday, at least yesterday, maybe even sooner than that. So that's weird. And Agile, thank you very much. I have lots of Shadowdark too. Yeah, lots of Shadowdark, and 8 months. I mean, you're one of my longest members. So thank you very much for your continued support. Tom just dropped the PDFs for that Kickstarter. Oh, cool. All right, so I'm definitely gonna have to check that out. Yeah, so that's awesome. I didn't check my email yet, so I will certainly check that out. And Agile Monk, thank you very much for gifting out these. And let's see, so we have Will, congratulations. Das Veratu, Das Veratu. I like the name. Das Veratu, congratulations there. Maurice Deering, congratulations. Peace Chanter, congratulations. And Stu E, congratulations on that. Oh, Macarius, 14 months. So you are probably my one of my longest supporters. So gifts for the awesome channel. Well, thank you very much, both of you. Yeah, I almost put on my red one, and I was like, geez, I keep on putting on the same ones over and over again. So I had to dig all the way to the bottom of my drawer to get my olive drab. So as a veteran, that's a great one for me to grab a hold of, since they are so supportive. Troll Lord Games are so supportive of veterans in the veteran community, and both Stephen and Davis are both veterans as well. So it's it's a good way that they give back to their community and the veteran community in particular. Hello, Mark. It's good to see you, and yeah, welcome. And yeah, don't worry, I ramble on for a long time anyway, so you'll get caught up on anything I spoke a little bit about Shadowdark and a little bit about Castle Zagyg, and I will put out the invite again if anyone wants to come in and chat there. So now let me get to being an Army guy. I like to wear that green over the red version of the t-shirt. Yes, and thank you for your service as well. So let's see. I put out a pay what you want PDF of Shadowdark on drive-thru. It's called The Carousing with the Gnome King's Jewels. I'm going to definitely check that out. with the Gnome King's Jewels. Now, I won't be able to review it because I also publish on there as well. So, but I'll definitely take a look at it, and I'll showcase it on the channel if you ever want to come on. Once I get past my interview on the 31st, I've been trying to get some other people on as well. But if you ever want to come on and talk about your product, I'll certainly let you pitch it on my channel. Yeah, they are great guys. The creator of Formoria, the Dark Age setting, has a Shadowdark project out at. For learning and skills, you can get his setting book and adventure in the world. 25 years of gameplay. Cool. Yeah, I backed a whole bunch of stuff. So I backed many different Shadowdark things lately. Yeah, I got to tone back a little bit. So let's see. Let me bring up my view all here, and then so let's see how many of these are Shadowdark. Yeah, let's see. I will. Let's see, share screen. Back projects. So here we go. So I have the Western Reaches, obviously. I have the Cult of the Winged Skull, which is a Shadowdark physical code for it as well. I like getting the books in physical. I got the Shadowdark version of this. This is put out by somebody I never heard of before, and so it was a nice thing to grab. Pledges of. So he's not quite there yet. So take a look at it and see if he has 11 days to go. Hopefully he gets there and it comes through. So DCC and so you can get either or. This is from Cranky Clydesdale Publishing. So definitely check it out. And let me go back. And let's see the next one. Now, Creating Monsters, a Bestiary. Let's come on. It's going slow. Here we go. Now, this is from Michael Putlak. I hope I pronounced that right. And he is like a community manager for Arcane Library. So he's very associated with Arcane Library and such. And so I backed this. This was the person when I was trying to set up an interview with anyone from Arcane Library. Obviously, I would love to have Kelsey on the channel, and he was the contact person for that. And then I have several others. I'm not going to keep on going through all of those, but yeah, it's a I think it's not just a big OSR game. It's a big TTRPG out there on the scene, and so I encourage you. You can get Shadowdark on on their website, and soon, like she said, Kelsey said, she's looking to get it out in gaming stores as well, and she's going to focus on the local gaming shops, the smaller places, to get the books out there, and that anyone who does have a shop that wants to get copies of it, they can reach out and directly to Arcane Library and secure some copies of it. Yes, yeah, they both seem to be very nice. I never met him before. I met Kelsey at Page Two, and it was just a phenomenal experience. So so let's talk about the next, big thing in the news, and this one is going to be, um, how do I put it? Friendly local game stores is the target market for SD. She and Jesse are working to market them. Yes. Yeah. So I know you have a good inside line as well, Agile Monk. Yeah, and that should be the target market, because you're going to create, or she's going to create, a an environment where people can walk into a store and actually see the game being played there. All right, you're not going to get that in a Target or a Walmart, or even like a Barnes and Nobles or anything like that. It kind of puts it right there in the local game shop, where oftentimes they'll have several open tables where people can run things on a regular basis, and and that's the perfect spot for it. Plus, on top of that, if you're at all familiar with those 2-page adventures that come with Shadowdark, or you could pick up for Shadowdark, those adventures can be run in 2 hours time, very, very easily, and that's a perfect time block for a local game store to actually deal with, having someone come in, with 4 or 5 other players, sit down at a table, play for 2 hours, pack up and move on, and purchase things while they're there and whatnot, just to get back to that game store as well. So I think it's going to be a phenomenal boon for for Arcane Library and Shadowdark, getting it out there in view of as many people as possible. So now I am going to move on to some Wizards of the Coast news, and so this one here is something, and I'm going to point right to their very first advertisement of their VTT. All right, so, and it's I like the fact that it's actually on here. So I'm going to N-World. This is all over the place for the last couple of days. And I even did a short on it, but I didn't do a full-blown thing about it with their project. You know, I don't know if they pronounce it sigil. To me it's sigil. That's how you pronounce this word, but they've given up on it. All right. They fired 90% of the development team, and I've actually tried using it. I've actually gone into the beta. I've done this on my channel, and you can see it as well. And and needless to say, I wasn't very impressed with it. I thought that it was very flat. Um, as nice as as nice as it looks when you're seeing it in a snapshot, but once you're actually in the game, and I want to call it a game. Once you're inside the VTT, you're it just came off like it was very like soulless, and it was not interactive in any real way. It was I preferred it to have been like a point and click, where you select your character and then you point where you want to go, and then you actually watch that character move over there, instead of, I'm going to lift up the token and drop it over a wall. Now it showed the measurement around the door that it had to be in, but I literally didn't have to bring it through that pathway. I had to just pick it up and drop it up over the wall of the place, and to me, that was just it broke any amount of immersion that I would have had. I was like, I'd rather just be in person then, and do the same thing. Even as a player, in person using minis, we used to move them in the direction that they had to move. We didn't just pass them through walls to put them in the other room. We'd actually bump, 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 and move them through and show that motion. Even in person, we were doing that. So to see it on the screen like that, and the fact that you could do that, I was like, wow, this is nowhere near any kind of an experience that is an improvement over what other VTTs are already out there. And my thought that this was going to be a failure was right with this very first look. All right, because when they first launched this, and I'm going to cut down on the volume. I'm not going to let the because I don't want them to
This is amazing. You guys ready to play some D&D?
Yes.
So we've got 4 really cool characters here. Is anyone thinking about anything
Right.
specifically as you're looking at these?
I'm thinking Dorbin. I like his beard and I want to be a bearded man.
They don't show them here, but I know that these are Alienware.
Are you having fun, Greg?
All right, and that jumped out to me immediately. I was like, they're doing the demonstration of this with laptops that are close to $3,000 a piece, and if that is the, if that is, I'm going to stop sharing. If that is the requirement, then this thing was dead in the water. All right. And this was not going, they're complaining that not enough people buy books, and yet they thought that, but they're gonna have a $2,700 laptop to run this game on. It's just crazy. It was dead right from the get-go. Yeah, tabletop simulator. Yeah, no subscription, and works great. And there's plenty that are out there. I mean, I still use Roll20, and I use it for what I use it for. I don't do all the bells and whistles with it because I'm spending more time just chatting with my players and having them act out things, and we're just playing the game, and that is just for our dice rolls and our chats in the comments section and everything like that, and to have some tokens and character sheet tracking and all of that stuff. I don't need that big 3D kind of thing because we're all in our heads, and we're talking about we're describing what's going on in the action. So and then when I'm in person and everything, it's still mostly theater of the mind anyway. So so those enhancements that you have on the VTT, it's not very, at least in my opinion, I don't need all that much. All right, I just need dice rollers so that we can all see the rolls taking place, and and being able to lay out a map is really nice to be able to do. And I use a whiteboard, basically a page that is just completely clear. It has their avatars on there, and then I can bring, or tokens, I should say, and then I can bring the monster tokens on there as well. And that way they can kind of get a general sense of, this is where the action is taking place. This is where they have to move, that kind of a thing. When I saw this VTT, and in particular when I used this VTT, I was like, this is not going to be successful at all. And it's once again just another example of how Wizards of the Coast and now Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, how they react, and how they seem to market something for the purpose of selling something else. And when neither works well, they just cut and run. All right, this is exactly what they did with Sword Coast Legends. All right, so Sword Coast Legends, if you're not familiar with it, it was a video game that that they produced with I want to say it was Cryptid Studios. I'd have to relook it again, but a well-known, a well-known computer game developer, and they, once they came out with their game, and it had a lot of potential. I mean, it had incredible potential for it. They just needed to work out some of the kinks and everything that were in it. But it was the video game was designed to sell Descent into Avernus, the book. And when Descent to Avernus did not sell well, they immediately abandoned the video game. And when I say abandoned, I mean they shut down the servers for it within 6 months after launch, or 6 to 8 months after launch. It was like, and all of the things that we were asking for them to bug fix and to add some features to, none of that happened anymore. They literally worked on it for like a month after launch, and then they washed their hands of it because the book didn't sell well, and it was all designed just to sell the book. Honor Among Thieves was really designed to market something out there, and it didn't take off at all. And again, they stopped promoting it. They stopped even talking about it. It's amazing that they don't even mention that they created a movie. That's because they lost a lot of money on it. But the point is that they don't even have that as a feather in their cap. Hey, we created a major motion picture, a $300 million motion picture. Again, the fact that it didn't make its money back still should have been. And not only did they, not do well with the movie, but then they sold the production company that created the movie on top of that. So they sold Entertainment One because they're like, all right, that doesn't work. They're such a cut and run kind of corporation that it looks like they're almost more encouraged to cut their losses and then claim either tax write-offs or whatever, just to try to protect their their stock value by saying, oh, well, we fired all these people, so now we're going to be more, don't worry about the $30 million we threw out the window, for this. We're gonna focus on the fact that we fired 30 people, and that's going to save us some money in the long run. It's just such a bad way of running a product line for to try to keep your player base. That's why I'm saying, games like Shadowdark are really well positioned to take over that market share, and to exceed those numbers by 2027, because tying that into all of what we've seen as well about the book sales. And I know that there's some out there that are saying, oh, this sold more print copies, or this sold more, more digital than any other game in history. I call BS on that. I don't think that the numbers actually show that at all. When you sell a book and a PDF, that does not count as two sales. I'm saying that's the only way that they get those kinds of numbers. If anything, they don't actually release numbers. So I think that 2024 D&D tied to the VTT now, and the failure of the VTT, tied to the fact that D&D Beyond is struggling. I listened to one video where, and I forget who it was, but they said by their own metrics, their own reporting, and this is WotC's reporting, no one has created a 2025 character on D&D Beyond. Like, no one has actually utilized just the 2025 core rule books to create a character on D&D Beyond, and that tells me that they're either like solely sticking to 2014, or maybe they're integrating some, but no one is exclusively creating characters just using D&D 2024. And that tells me it's a complete failure. Let me get caught up with some of your comments. Yes, it is completely crazy. WotC are trying to turn D&D into a computer game and refuse to understand what they have. And they're refusing. They have a terrible track record for computer gaming. I guess the best that they've ever done was Neverwinter, but that wasn't an in-house project, project either. So they just don't have a good track record of being able to do their own, and so it's just, just stop trying. You're not going to succeed. This is possibly the second time that they tried with a VTT. From what I understand, they tried to do it with 4th edition as well, and that was not successful. They should focus more on actually creating a new edition of D&D for the tabletop, streamline it, make it feel like old school, and yet have some modern mechanics to it. I know I'm giving the tagline for Shadowdark because that's exactly what they're saying, that old school feel with modern mechanics, and that's where they should be going to. But they're going to have to give the axe to most of the people at most of the creative people at Wizards of the Coast in order to do that, in order to accomplish that, because none of the people that they currently have are adherents to old school game design. They don't believe in it. They don't look for it, and they don't want to push it out there. Whereas things like Shadowdark, I mean, they certainly are pushing that out there. Even on my own channel, where I have encouraged modern players to come to AD&D First Edition, and I will be pushing that play style to them, and I really can't wait for them to really start to understand and recognize how AD&D First Edition, in comparison to 5e, is just a much better system. Especially when it comes to combat and the streamlining of combat. And most of us that are old school, never look back at AD&D First Edition and say, wow, this is a really streamlined system. But in comparison to 5e, it certainly, it sure as hell is. It's a streamlined system compared to 5e, with its, multi-layered of, character action economy, that's just, just crazy. I mean, I've had high level adventurers, facing an ancient dragon, and that combat still lasts less than an hour, and a large party too. It was like 8 players, so 8 players, 8-player characters, and yet the combat was still like an hour, maybe it was an hour and 10 minutes or something like that. It was our longest during a 2-year plus campaign, combat, and and it was so fast in comparison to 5e. So I think, and they still have that same issue, that combats take too long. It gets too boring. That's why they avoid combats, because they don't want their whole play session to be just 2 combat encounters and that's the end of it. That's why they're making, espresso, and they're selling birthday cakes or whatever instead of, or dancing on a prom rather than actually engaging in combat. So just bizarre. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. I've heard about it over and over again, over the time, but I'll definitely check it out. I've heard that most gaming software starts off only playable on high-end equipment and it's adapted for other platforms. I suspect they were having problems with that adaptation. Yeah, they probably couldn't scale it back down again, and and that was most likely the problem. Yeah, I have the Foundry. I do have a Foundry VTT, and to be honest with you, it's not easy to use. It's not easy to get into it. It's not easy to set up a game. It's not. It's very, very hard to use. Yeah, you buy it once and you have it forever, but yeah, it's not. It's not a simple system to use at all. They need to really make that much more accessible to people that are not incredibly computer savvy. I've heard that the Unreal Engine they were basing is a resource hog and can be hard to scale down for, say, mobile phones or tablets. Yeah. Well, it was not compatible at all with any Apple product, so you eliminate something like, I think someone said like 70% of the 70% of the computers out there that are, pretty tough with, like, pretty good with graphics, and they couldn't run it at all. Yep, good to see you as well, Kevin. Yeah, I stopped doing shout outs. So Tandemar, good to see you. And anybody else I missed, I will scroll and check it out. Let's see. Yes, I absolutely believe so. Troll Lord Games is trying to kind of set up its own like adventure league kind of thing. So getting that kind of league going with them, and they're going to more and more. They're going to more conventions as well from outside of their regular area. So like this was this past January was the first time that they went to Page. I'm sure that they'll continue having a presence there. I'm hoping that they go to some other conventions as well. And especially in my area, I'm going to be selfish and would love to see them there. Same thing with Shadowdark. I know Kelsey was saying that she does want to get some kind of a league play going for Shadowdark. And maybe it might not be exactly the way that Adventure League is done with D&D, but hopefully it's something kind of similar where, yeah, you're just going there and you're keeping track of, GMing and the time that you spent as a GM, game mastering Shadowdark at the conventions, and then have some kind of a system where you're building up points or credits or something like that, accolades for doing that on a larger scale, and then for the players also to get some kind of recognition or whatever for the number of games and sessions that they've participated in. Yeah, it's like D&D will always be out there as a brand name, but its products could, literally be shelved, and I don't think that they actually care if that happens, as long as they can put D&D on T-shirts and on Lego sets and on this and that and everything. They don't care about the quality of the tabletop role-playing game. They see no money in that whatsoever. and they've said this over and over again too. They just don't understand that that is what the tabletop hobby really looks for. Is we want books in hand, and they can't make money from that. All right, and that's just the thing. So you're not putting books in hand, to make money at the level that they're looking to as a big corporation. Um, you know, Developers, publishers are putting books in the hands of people because they love the hobby. They love the idea of tabletop role playing games. And it's not about making $1 billion. It's about, a product of love that, sure, they want to make a living off of it. They want to be able to, feed their families and keep a roof over their head and do all of that kind of stuff. But, they don't have shareholders that they're beholden to. They're just looking to put out stuff that they enjoy putting out there, and hopefully can make a living off of it, which very few probably do. But those that do manage to make a living from it, they're still not looking to make the billions. Not that they would turn it down, but that's not their real goal. And I mean, you'll have none of these people will say, I'm trying to create the next D&D killer. I'm trying to create the game that is going to unseat D&D as far as the market share is concerned, even though I think that they probably will. Some have the potential of doing that. They're certainly not saying that out there and saying, I'm looking to put it down. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Hasbro is the only one that can kill it, and they're doing everything that they can to do so. Yeah, D&D 1, which, well, the first thing is that they never settled on a name for any damn thing, so they kept on bouncing it around all over the place. Or like afraid to say, that it's a new edition. They're afraid to say, well, it's completely, they'll say it's completely backwards compatible. Then when you ask them, then why do I need to buy it? They don't have an answer for that. All right. So it's like, you're either making a product for them to buy, which means that it can't be completely backwards compatible. Otherwise you're shooting yourself in the foot. Then they go, well, then I don't need to buy it. I already have this stuff. The lack of 2025 characters now doesn't necessarily mean anything, because a lot of people are finishing up 2014 base campaigns before switching. I don't think that that's a real situation, Kevin, to be honest with you. People just go on D&D Beyond to create characters, whether they're involved in a campaign or not. The fact that they're not creating characters just for, I have a handful of characters on D&D Beyond, and I don't even play 5e. So there's, I don't see that's an actual thing. That they're just waiting to wrap up their 2014 base campaigns before switching. 2014 base campaigns lasted 6 sessions, according to WotC. That's like the average. So yeah, I think that it's just there's no interest in it. They're not making a 2025 character exclusive to just that rule set. And I think that's really what they were talking about, was that no one, and they said no one, has created an exclusive 2025 character. That tells me that that tells me that it's just not a good transition from one edition to another, when it's been completely rejected. I mean, we're looking at like D&D 4th edition comparisons here. That said, I don't think it's going to go well for them. No, I don't think it is either. Hey, I was raised by a poor orc. I was raised a poor orc child. How's it going? cannot write good RP, let alone design products, let alone design computer support for the game. No, they can't. Because they don't have their writers, DeArmas, I forget her first name, Mackenzie DeArmas hadn't even been playing the game for 2 years, and then she wrote a source book. Come on, most of their writers came over from Pathfinder, so very few people actually worked up through their through their ranks, or they go back and forth between Paizo and WotC, back and forth, but everyone is from 3.5 moving forward. No one in their writing staff is has any real connection to the legacy of Dungeons and Dragons, so they just don't understand it. The Citadel one, I forget the name of the book, where they had like 12 different authors. 3 of the 12 authors, 2 of them had never played Dungeons and Dragons before, and yet they're writing a Dungeons and Dragons adventure. One of them had never even heard of Dungeons and Dragons before, didn't even know what a tabletop role-playing game was, and yet that person was selected to write an adventure for the Radiant Citadel. It's like, how do you hire somebody, unless they're writing an adventure to make onion soup, which was probably one of those individuals, and that was literally an adventure, to gain the experience to make an onion soup. I'm not even freaking joking. So that was the caliber of adventure writing that they were putting together, both in theme for an adventure and in the experience of the writer for an adventure. Is just, at that point there, moving forward, Wizards of the Coast was done for creating Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, it's a, their stewardship has been horrible. I don't care what they sold. If it wasn't for COVID, let's be serious, if it wasn't for COVID, they would have been having these big issues by 2020 or 2021 regardless. COVID saved their asses. All right, and they would have been coming out with a new edition a hell of a lot sooner, if it wasn't for that really propping up, technically the hobby. Yes, the hobby was certainly helped across the board, but in particular, they were propped up during that time frame as well. I've been hearing before. It's me, Cal. Hey, Cal. How's it going? All right, so let's see. All right, so let's see. Save the dancing for the adventure's end, and the princess is saved and kisses the paladin. Yep. So the Endless Worlds is yes, that's their gaming program. Yes, thank you for reminding me. Yeah, and I'm hoping that they continue to expand. I'd love to get them to more to the Northeast than just Page, and start hitting things like Rising Phoenix would be a good convention for them to do that, because a little bit larger, about 500 people out there. Although Central New York is sounding like, Roger was saying that he's projecting somewhere between 300 and 500, people from his first, for his first convention. So that's going to be, pretty cool. Yeah, the one thing that I liked about CNCs being on BackerKit was that you can take the more expensive backings and spread it over 4 months of pay, because that's something initially that I was looking at doing, was to do the 4 month over, and then I was like, you know what, I might wait to get the physical and just do the $80 for everything in PDF plus all the stretch goals and everything. And then I'll get the physical some other time, later down the road, if I really feel I need it, or if I suddenly get the room for it. That was my number one consideration, was the room for it, because price-wise, I was spreading it out over 4 months. But then I started looking at my shelf, and I was like, where am I going to put, 3 or 4 large box sets on my shelving? Yes. Yeah, I think it's a combination of both, right? I think it's a combination of their missteps and then the successes of other, of other publishers, other creators, and those other creators more aligning with the player, and the player base out there, and recognizing where the player base really is at, and not catering to the very, very small niche within a niche within a niche that Wizards of the Coast is catering to. People want adventure. People want, players want adventure. They want a sense of risk versus reward, and they want something that's a little bit edgier. They don't want all of this, wishy-washy bullshit where there's no risk involved with it whatsoever. I know when Mike Merles, tweets about, some of the stuff, that he was, thinking about at the time, and saying, well, you know what, the system was, he's starting to see some of the flaws in the system. And I was like, well, one of the biggest flaws that you certainly didn't take into account was that you made a D&D with training wheels, and that's going to invite a certain kind of player that is going to want it to become easier and easier and easier. And so by building that into the system, you've built that, that invitation for really weak play. And then you add in that action economy, which was just a disaster from the get-go, because the number one complaint is that combat takes too long in 5e, and yet they do nothing to streamline combat. All right, and the way you have to streamline combat is you have to reduce the power of the player characters. You have to reduce the action economy. You have to reduce all of the different feats and everything that they have. You have to stop the nonsense of the, I have 3 character classes because I want to take pieces of all of these other, character classes to optimize, and make my character a 3rd level god mode. It's just right from the get-go, he should have been able to see these are all of the pitfalls of taking the system that he created, the compartmentalized system that he created, and if they optimize it like a video gamer would, you're going to break the system. And that's exactly what they did. But they didn't only just break the system, they allowed it to break the culture around the game. And so now they've been infiltrated by a culture that doesn't want to play Dungeons and Dragons. They want to play something that doesn't have any connection to the essence of what Dungeons and Dragons had been for its first 40 years. Yeah, but that's not a bad thing, Adam. It's not a bad thing that it's drowning out everything. Well, I don't know if it's quite drowning out everything. It's certainly delivering on something that it's certainly delivering on something that 5e does not do. All right, and or does not do well, and that is a fairly easy to learn and easy to play, and yet still a challenging game for for the things that it does do. So it's definitely and I reject those that say, oh, this is just watered down. Shadowdark is watered down 5e. It absolutely is not. It is not. I see so little connection to 5e. You can't just say, oh, well, it has roll for advantage. Roll for advantage did not start with 5e. All right, it started long before that. And then, or if they say, oh, it has tokens, right? That goes back to the hero point system that was first introduced in James Bond 007 by Victory Games in like 1984 or 85, whatever it was. So the things that they attribute to Shadowdark and say is 5e, it's just not there. All right, you can't make that argument. It is a simplified version of many different systems, including DCC and D&D and other other game systems brought together into one thing. And then it has some elements that are unique to it that also, and a lot of that uniqueness is also visually, it has a graphic style that sets the tone for the game, so, and that's something that I don't think is given enough credit for. Shadow Dark would be, I think, perceived to be a very different game if it weren't for its black and white art and just the style of its black and white art as well really does capture that grittiness that Kelsey Dion was looking for in the game system. I mean, it has grinder mode in it. It has other things that are going to make it a much more difficult, challenging game for modern players to play. So to say that it's a clone of not that you are, but I'm just saying, to say that it's a clone of 5e, which some people have made that argument, it's just not there. I need to see how you're backing up that claim. But anyway, let's go move on. I have many folders full of characters I have made just because they're an inspiration, but never played the character. Yeah, you're getting back to what I was saying about the 2025, 2024 character sheets on D&D Beyond. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna get caught up, because I've been rambling on adventures through the Radiant Citadel. Yeah, let me get caught up. That's crazy. Yeah, Chuck is running it, and I played in Chuck's game. Chuck's game was awesome. So he was running an interpretation of White Plume Mountain for Castles and Crusades, and it was an awesome adventure. Uh, Let me pop out that invitation again. If anyone wants to chime in and jump in backstage, if you're available, you're welcome. All right. Yeah, I want to reach out to them and see if see what we could do about bringing them to some smaller conventions as well. Maybe if not them, but actually setting up some kind of a endless worlds at smaller conventions. I would certainly be willing to do that at conventions like the size of ShireCon or Central New York or Rising Phoenix. So if any of those guys from there are, because I know that Jason Bay pops into my channel every once in a while. So Jason, if you're out there, and that would include Amazing Adventures as well, not just Castles and Crusades, but Amazing Adventures as well, which will be nice to see get some more out there as well. Yes, 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 and I appreciate that. Yes, keep the likes coming in, and the views and the comments. Like I said, the comments are huge, so really appreciate that. All right, so let's get back to this this thing here about I slammed the project sigil enough. I mean, it's just not what people ask for. And then when they saw it, it was rejected, and others have been even more harsh than I have, on it as well. And it's just not something that I see people moving away from a VTT that they're already using to go to one that is very, very much a system hog, is only available to IBM compatible computers, and is only and is going to have a subscription cost, is going to hit you up for every microtransaction they can possibly think of, and they will nickel and dime you to death with those. You might say to yourself, oh, it's only $1, but to fully put together my character, I need to spend $15 to make my character up. And the character modeling is nowhere near compared to what you can do on on that miniature site where you can make a Hero Forge. It's like nowhere near in comparison to what you could create on Hero Forge. It's just that they would never transport what Hero Forge does over into into D&D Beyond and into the VTT, because Hero Forge does all of it'll give you 50 different colors and all different kinds of gadgets and clothing bits and whatever, and to the point that it would cost you $200 just to design your character, let alone to actually port it over or to even purchase it. I mean, Hero Forge is probably like $60 for a figure as well. I think I've constructed a few of them. I've never bought them because anytime I've created them, I'm like, all right, that's a $60 figure. And I don't do very much with figures anyway. So anyway, but yeah, it's please care for the children. I'm off rating. Yes, remember everyone counts. So raised by a poor orc child. I was raised a poor orc child. I know that was the other thing that was brought up in another video that I was watching. It was like, all of their missteps, like nobody asked to have their orcs made people too, or turned into Mexicans, or just made it where they're not one of the primary antagonists for a low level party. I mean, they were ideally designed for that, and positioned for that kind of place. And the fact that they couldn't realize that and wrap their heads around that. And this was not the executives making that decision. This was the creators. This was, the Jeremy Crawfords and the Peter Tondros and or Jason Tondro, I forget. Jason Tondros and the, the Perkins, and it was those individuals that made that choice to do that. So it just shows you that they're not connected to D&D as a tabletop role-playing game. They're connected to D&D as being some kind of an agenda-driven marketing brand, and that's where I think they just have a disconnect with the player base and their true player base. Let's not forget, Kyle Brink was the one that's like, white middle-aged men can't get out of this hobby fast enough. Well, we're 80% of the hobby, you moron. We're the ones with the money that can buy this shit, and you've actively chased us away, and now you're complaining like, oh, you know what, this is, there's not enough interest in it. They were trying to say there's not enough internal interest in Project Sigil. No, there's not enough external interest in Project Sigil. No one was buying into that crap. All right. There's no such thing as, oh, there's not enough internal interest. All right. Your internal interest doesn't matter. It's the external interest that matters. It's the external interest that's going to put money in your coffers. And you didn't have that. Your internal interest means nothing, all right, as far as selling products. Legos is a new honest law. Yeah. I don't know. You're gonna start painting Legos on your channel, Ducato. I'm waiting to see that. My 15,000 minis beg to differ. My several hundred, probably about 500 minis that are all unpainted, kind of agree with that. I'd be better off with Legos. I have to. This is a mini that I started painting. Well, actually, this is the only mini that I have completed painting in 40 years of gaming. A Reaper skeleton archer, and that was it. I was in the process of finishing my Marauder orc, and I ended up stopping at, I still have to do the fur like kilt or whatever it is, apron below his chain, his leather armor and his chainmail. I can never quite get those little I couldn't get the studs, the metal studs going through his leather armor on the armor itself there. Right, they just kept on getting painted over with the brown, and then when I tried putting the silver on them, it just kept on bleeding back over again. I just don't have either the tools or certainly the talent to do that kind of thing. But that was the full extent of my my minis. You can paint those 500 minis in about 2.5 years. Yes. I don't think so. No, because I haven't even finished this one in over a year. So I don't think so. Oh my God, Playmobil. I haven't heard Playmobil in forever. I can't stand Legos for gaming. The Lego minifigs. Well, come on, you can run whole campaigns with Star Wars figures in your D&D game with Lego minifigs, or Fortnite characters in your D&D campaign as well, because they're all canon. All right, so I am going to check out some more comments here. We're getting into this here. All right, I'm going to start getting ready to wrap this thing up, but I really do appreciate everybody that has come in. Everything Lego is D&D canon, yes. Everything in Lego, everything in Fortnite, everything in apparently Disney, or, you know, because then they do Disney characters and MTG. Everything that gets connected to MTG is all of a sudden connected to D&D. No one at Wizards of the Coast will say that. No one at Lego will say that. No one at Disney will say that. No one anywhere else will say that. Only one person on the entire planet will say that. But anyway, Lego Magos, yes. So yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff coming out these like last week to 10 days. Both Shadowdark stuff, Castle Zagyg, and stuff coming out of the Gygax estate. You know, also remember that you know, Ernie Gary Gygax you know, recently passed as well. So that also has an impact on, you know, our hobby in general. And the overall trajectory, I think, for our hobby is moving to the OSR and independent gaming, and just seeing more and more being pushed for it. You know, to be honest with you, I don't see all that much going on with like Pathfinder 2. Maybe it's just not within my circles or anything like that, but I don't see it out in the wild, you know, all that much either. You know, going to several conventions that I've been to in the last, you know, 12 to 18 months, you know, Pathfinder just doesn't have a huge presence out there. And, you know, the systems that I'm seeing a lot more of, you know, is obviously Shadowdark. I'm seeing a lot more of Castles and Crusades. I'm seeing a lot more of Savage Worlds out there. Still see quite a bit of DCC. Hyperborea is out there quite a bit. Call of Cthulhu, you know, probably more so than Pathfinder, but still less so than some of those others. But you know, there's probably only about let's say 10 game systems that you'll see you know, quite a bit of at a convention, you know, and maybe even less, slightly less than that you'll see dominating conventions with a lot of time expenditure on them. So let me see. Jeremy Crawford took a dump at Disneyland, and Disney and D&D are canon now. Yeah. Disney had plenty of matching poop. Yeah. AD&D still had the only true barbarian class instead of Berserker falsely titled as one. Yeah, but the barbarian class of AD&D, and it's my favorite version of Dungeons and Dragons. The barbarian class was a broken class once you got to higher levels. It just wasn't it wasn't as good as having a pure fighter, or comparing it to a 10th level fighter, or comparing it. The barbarian class was all front loaded, well, being really really powerful in the beginning, and then the experience point requirements made it less and less usable. I like how some other game systems started. Castles and Crusades, and for example, looks like the barbarian class, even though it is a barbarian class, it looks more as a cultural class than a than a true character class kind of thing. Dragon Slayer, I'm looking to pick up a copy of that when I go to the Central New York RPG convention, because Greg Gillespie will be there, and so I'm definitely going to try to pick up a copy. Oh, I will pick up a copy when I go there. I hear a lot of things about it. I also want to take a look at Dragonbane, which I can probably get at my local store. Just have to wait till I get past my massive expenditures of money over these last couple weeks, and and replenish my my funds to get that. I'm waiting for Axe to come in the mail. I think that's coming in May, so I can't wait to get my hands on Axe to check that out. Yeah, Hyperborea is a great system. You and I played in that game of Hyperborea, and that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun playing in Jeffrey's game. All right, I'm going to wrap this one up. So you all have a great one. Everyone have a great rest of your weekend. Like I said, I'll probably do another live stream between now and the 31st. Definitely doing one on the 31st. I'm going to have a convention organizer, very, very small local convention by me, will be on that 31st. I'm actually putting together a Shadowdark campaign. I'm not quite sure which day I'm going to run it on. It might be a Friday night. It might be a Saturday night. I'm also doing my AD&D campaign. That's on Friday nights, alternating Friday nights. And then I have my Amazing Adventures campaign that we're really starting to get into that one. That's on my Tuesday night. So I'm looking at probably like 3 nights a week of running stuff, and 3 different game systems. So I think that's that's a great thing for my channel, to have that kind of expansive coverage of different things, and crossing over some genres as well as just I have different players in all 3 groupings. So that's another really good thing too. So I'm ending up with around like between 15 and 18 different players now in my various games. And so that's really awesome, to get a nice good feel for how other people, play, and other people's expectations of me as a game master. So the more players you have, the better you'll become, in my opinion, the better you'll become as a game master. And that's what I'm really looking for. And then I'm going to start getting my adventures ready for my June convention. So still have to tighten up one adventure that I'm getting ready for the Central New York. Want to tighten up my Fallout RPG adventure for that, and then check out some other stuff. So anyway, thanks everyone for stopping in. You all have a great rest of your weekend, and thanks for those that are members. And if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Share this out there. I appreciate all your comments and everything. And then once this is completely live, and you can start commenting on the saved broadcast, feel free to put your comments in there as well. And as always, I look forward to seeing you on a gaming screen or at a convention sometime soon. And I hope to see you at my next live stream. You all have a great one. Take care.